Tim, thank you for agreeing to meet with CNE to answer our questions and hear your thoughts about affordable housing and neighborhoods. Before we start, there's one question I want to ask you that wasn't on the prepared questions that we sent you, but I'm curious, what does home mean to you?
Wow, that's a big one. Well, I mean, this sounds a little corny, but home to me really does mean Chattanooga. I mean, I don't have a big extended family. In fact, I don't have an extended family at all. Both my parents were only children. I came back to Chattanooga after college for what little family I had. So, home really for me means, friends, coworkers. I mean, in a word, it does mean Chattanooga. I mean, that's one of the reasons, probably the main reason I'm running. Is to improve my home.
Mm-hmm. So I want to talk to you a little bit about vision. The next couple questions will be about that. So as you know, there was a recent poll in the Times Free Press where it talked about the most important attribute of the next mayor is vision.
Right.
And so could you share with us about what your vision is for affordable housing and thriving neighborhoods in Chattanooga?
Certainly happy to. And I should begin by saying, I'm a huge fan of CNEs and the work that you've done over the years. And I think you guys are going to be critical to the recovery of Chattanooga and my vision of making Chattanooga the best city in the country, because good segue, great cities are composed of great neighborhoods. That's really my vision. There's no way we can have a great Chattanooga without having really great neighborhoods. And so how we do that is, the devil's in the details. I would start by really finding ways to encourage home ownership, very specifically, and actively discourage absentee landlordism. There's some interesting ways to do that. We need to find ways to support the unique character of each neighborhood. I think that's an important element of it. Equitable access, and of course, the sustainable development of affordable housing is critically important to this vision. Once again, the devil's in the details, but you ask about vision. But also to thrive, neighborhoods need, good public transportation. We have a lot of work to do there. Public safety is part of it. Sidewalks, good paying jobs, good education opportunities. Look, if this was easy, we'd have already done it, right? So this is the job of good local government. So I hope that helps. I would also say, I would lead from the point of view of an average resident. I mean, I look at it. I live in Fort Wood, one of Chattanooga's great neighborhoods, and it is a great, vibrant, living neighborhood. I don't look at it from the standpoint of a developer or an executive or a tourist. I look at it from the perspective of a Chattanoogan who lives in a Chattanooga neighborhood.
What would be your plan to get people to lean into and support your vision?
Well, I think, obviously it starts with listening to neighborhood input. I've done a lot of that already during the campaign. I've been around to different neighborhood associations. I've knocked on a lot of doors in Chattanooga. And I think we need to leverage input from neighborhood advocates and associations to drive decision-making at the city level in line with each neighborhood's unique character and needs and desires. In terms of getting stuff done, I mean, that is really what I bring to the table. My background in small business and nonprofits has helped me learn how to build coalitions. Of course, I was a co-founder at Chattanooga FC, and that was a great example of bringing people together to accomplish something just out of whole cloth, from nothing. And so I know how to motivate and bring people together. Very frankly, Chattanoogans live in these neighborhoods. And in my experience, knocking on doors around town, I think of Brainerd in particular, one of Chattanooga's great old neighborhoods. And there's a real palpable sense of frustration and despair, and we need to restore hope in those neighborhoods. I don't think it's going to be that big a job. I'd also say we need to strengthen our commitment to neighborhood beautification grants, generally following a philosophy of self-determination and giving neighborhoods more power, more latitude to develop their own unique character. And then finally, of course, the basics I talked about are super important, right? Unless we fill potholes and do paving and fix sidewalks, you can't have great neighborhoods without that basic stuff.
Mm-hmm. It's interesting because the beautification, curb appeal, that's the foundation of the Healthy Neighborhood report that Buki did, right. As well as when he was here, his concern and interest in the Brainerd area as being really the neighborhood that needs to be strengthened in order to really support the city.
No
It's
question
since
about it.
it's yeah.
It's central to the city. It, again, it has everything it needs, but it's almost like, the blood's been drained out of it, and we have to put it back.
Mm-hmm. So the next couple of questions, really, I want to focus on affordable housing and thriving neighborhoods specifically.
Right.
And as you know, CNE really believes that thriving neighborhoods should offer opportunities for economically and racially diverse residents.
Mhm.
So what are your thoughts on how we balance creating neighborhoods that are full of amenities that everybody wants, and we all kind of know when we see it, oh, this is a thriving neighborhood, it has a lot to offer,
Right.
but then with housing affordability, because oftentimes those sorts of neighborhoods, rents tend to be more expensive, or as those things happen in a neighborhood, rents, they start pricing people out. So how do you see, how would you balance that?
Well, I'm a big fan of mixed use and of development that incorporates housing types for all people together, right? So I think that's the best practices in development are around that right now, and I would follow those. There isn't a blanket approach. Every neighborhood's different, but I should say right now in the city, new housing almost de facto can't be affordable housing, though it does go back to affordable housing. A lot of that has to do with code reform. Builders will tell you that, again, the tangle of code and ordinance in the city just makes it very difficult for people to want to invest in the city. I would appoint a code czar to really start at the beginning, really with housing, and disentangle that, working with the city council to try to, go back and take 50 years of confused and often contradictory code and make it easier to do affordable housing. Chattanooga, also has a land bank that just is sitting there unused. I mean, almost 1,000 properties, thousands of acres. And of course, that stuff could be used to further increase the supply of affordable housing, hopefully with CNE. So that's a big part of it. And again, we need housing of all types. We have this kind of missing middle problem. So I'm a reader. I'm a big student of the literature, and I try to keep up. And I would support you guys very specifically in this quest to build great neighborhoods.
Yeah, so when you're outdoor knocking, I think CNE, we're really proud of our missing middle prototypes that we've built. So on the corner of Willow and Union, we've got sixplexes, we have single family houses, both about 12 to 1,300 square foot, 900 square foot, a couple different kinds of sixplexes. And so I think that there's an opportunity, not just locally, but I know there's national interest in the way that CNE is bringing missing middle to neighborhoods.
Yeah, that's right. I would just add to that two things. One, I would really want to look at ways that we can create safe but functional common areas, to sort of build that sense of community. I think that's an important part of it. And look, I think we have this incredible foundation community in Chattanooga. I think there's some really, really interesting ways that we can create these capital stacks where a lot of that foundation money can be used as impact investment, locally invested dollars to leverage affordable housing in Chattanooga.
Yeah. I look forward to having more conversations with you about the capital stack. We've had some of those conversations, and we did pursue some of it. That's a longer conversation we can have, but it's complicated, as you know, since you did it.
It is, but it can be done, and I'm committed to getting it done.
Yeah. So I know that you've looked at CNE's recommendations that we're making, our recent platform on affordable housing and thriving neighborhoods. So what in our platform, what ideas resonated with you, and then what ideas challenged you?
Well, so the ideas that resonated with me, the report was fantastic, and I'll get to this, but we developed an entire plan around it. In fact, the neighborhood focused approach is one of my three main pillars that we talk about, along with education and just leading us out of this crisis. So, developing a long-term strategy, I think, was one of the things that really stuck with me for thriving neighborhoods and housing. I mean, that we need that. I'm a strategic guy. It's crazy to me that we don't have that. We should have it. And we should stick to it. Establish an executive level position to lead citywide efforts here on achieving the mayor's neighborhood and housing goals. I think that's a really important part of it, to work with you guys and others to execute the strategy. I would, very frankly, separate economic development of the city from community development, put this under community development, and make this a top priority. And again, I would also fix these development practices that act as regulatory and cost barriers to new housing development by updating, revising codes to make sure that it's easier for builders to invest in the right things. And again, back to the foundation, or perhaps even city money or other money. We need to incentivize what we want to see done, and I think there are interesting ways to do that.
One of the
I didn't get to the challenges, but
that's fine. Go ahead.
Well, the challenges, the things that really disturbed me were, of course, the affordability gap. The fact that the average renter makes $14.23 an hour, which translates to $750 a month, and our average rents are $1,100. That's a huge problem, a big problem. And of course, rank and file Chattanoogan's will tell you that. Everybody understands it viscerally and in their pocketbooks, and it's got to change. Very frankly, it's baffling and depressing to realize how wide this gap is between the two Chattanoogas, particularly in that River to Ridge area. That's another long report that I've read through, and it just shows you how much work we have to do here. And it's also challenging to see how many of these steps just weren't already taken. Very frankly, I'm not running against the current mayor, and Mayor Burke's done some fantastic work, but I think there's a lot of stuff that we're behind, and we need to be really intentional about a strategy to get caught up here. So look, we can fix this stuff, but we have to. The journey of 1,000 miles begins with one step. You guys have already begun. Very frankly, I think we just need to be doing more of what you're already doing.
Yeah, I was going to say to your around the report and some of your ideas. One of the great things that I find about Chattanooga is that there are people here that are connected nationally. And so we don't have to, and that's one of what CNE's been able to do, is to bring some of these ideas to the forefront of best practices. I mean, there are places that have tried code revisions and revised to make things more easy for development, less burdensome, not just for development, but businesses as well. And to your point, with the foundation support and the existing structures, I think that we are poised to be able to really execute on a lot of these ideas.
I think so too. I agree.
Yeah. So now let's talk about, these are really, as you've said, this is all, of course, we've been working in this area, but now we have to take action. So, and it costs money. So we know that with COVID, the city is going to be facing over the next year or two some revenue challenges, reduced revenues and potential budget shortfalls. So how do you envision balancing your housing vision with other competing needs?
Well, again, as I've said, this is my top priority, one of my absolute top priorities, along with education. So it would take, and these are capital investments. Again, a lot of this money doesn't have to come from the city. Once again, we have a huge foundation community here that is investing money very often in equities on the stock market, and that money never trickles back here. And they have their own fiduciary duty and decisions to make. But look, I think there are some really compelling and creative ways that we can encourage local foundation and local investors to invest in affordable housing in Chattanooga. I should also say, though, too, not to negate the premise of the question, but sales tax collections are actually not down, at least not through July. We're waiting on the September numbers, but hopefully, one of the, this is not a debate about public health versus economics, but whatever your stance is on the county mayor and the governor's stance regarding how locked down things should be versus not locked down, for whatever reason, sales tax collections have not suffered greatly. So the budget shortfall is not going to be as dire as we feared, I don't think. That being said, I do think COVID is going to cause, we're already seeing people moving in here from out of markets from other cities, which is going to create further stress on this gap between affordable housing and because income levels aren't rising. So the problem is going to be as bad or worse to address. Again, maybe our income won't go down at the city coffers, but the need will probably increase. So look, but as I said, this is going to be one of my top priorities, and I don't think, along with education, it's one of the most important things we can do long term strategically for the future of Chattanooga.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so to your point, I mean, one of the things that we've noticed is while all of the affordable housing numbers are pegged to the area median income, which HUD, the federal government, generates, and the area median income has grown exponentially over the last few years. But we know that people that are earning $11 an hour, their wages haven't increased.
Right.
And it's folks that are earning more money moving in, which is great for the economy, generating a lot of jobs, but it's not helping our workforce that are earning $11, $12 an hour, even, I mean, minimum wage jobs, for example, as well. And so the housing disparity between what's available for folks that really help are the economic engine in many ways of our community, and being able to ensure that they have places to live that are affordable.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, we don't want to become Jackson, Wyoming, or
Right.
where this, the Gini coefficient here could become grotesquely large. And, look, that's not, and that's why, the next mayor, this is not going to be an easy job. It really is a Goldilocks problem, because we want development on the one hand. Absolutely, we do. Our long-term longitudinal growth rate here is well behind our regional peers, but at the same time, if that happens, it could create this and almost will, if not address, create this gap that also isn't sustainable. And we know that divided economies never end well. That's a bit larger part of my vision, is creating an economy that works for everybody and rebuilding the middle class here. So these things are intimately related.
Mm-hmm. So that Times Free poll that came out, in addition to vision, it also talked, for the first time that I remember, affordable housing as being an issue.
Yeah.
So I think as we're seeing housing prices go up, more and more people are getting squeezed, and it's on the radar. Mm-hmm. So obviously, and which is a good thing, a lot of the other mayoral candidates are also talking about affordable housing as a pressing priority for them. But what do you think would set you apart in this area from other candidates?
Well, let me just say this. I'll say, no matter what becomes of this election, I'm encouraged by the fact that that a lot of these talking points are converging, right? This dialogue is good for Chattanooga. Very frankly, I think they're converging around, my policy stuff, because it's been on our website for many months. But that's a good thing, because I think we're talking about the right issues. So it comes down to who can actually execute the plan, right? And I do think, if I didn't think I were the best candidate in the race, I would not be running, because the last thing I want to do is do a disservice to Chattanooga. I have no further political ambition whatsoever, right? So I think that's important to note here. Well, that's one of the things that sets me apart, is because of that, I'm willing to take on long-term projects and initiatives that may be a little either just not, I wouldn't hope they're not unpopular, but at the same time, they may not pay off in my term or in my lifetime, but I don't care, right? That's not going to keep me from pursuing the right thing, because it's best for Chattanooga. I'd also say, look, I have a wealth of business and finance experience. I understand the nuts and bolts of this stuff. I've built plenty of stuff. I understand debt and leverage. I know, where the levers and buttons are. Also, my nonprofit work, both at the Community Foundation and Benwood. Again, I was fortunate to get a nice preview of of Charles Bookie's report, and read it cover to cover twice. I know it front to back, and so I understand these issues, and I can hit the ground running on day one.
Well, I want to thank you. But before we end, is there anything that you want to add that we haven't covered that you want folks to know?
I should just say on that last point, I neglected to mention, we've also created, when I'm not sure other candidates have, we've taken this approach of creating working groups, and we've created a working group around neighborhood development in particular, in a policy guide, which it's not probably not up on the website yet, but it will be very, very soon. It won't be that different from the report you produce, but it is different. It's largely based on that stuff because there's not a policy area that I can think of, and we've covered everything from entrepreneurship to homelessness to criminal justice reform. There's not one where very frankly it overlaps so completely with a nonprofit's mission and vision as yours. So again, thanks to CNE and to you for putting that out there, because it's been tremendously helpful, not only to me, but to every candidate, I hope.
Mhm.
So no, over and above that, I would just again repeat that I'm a very nonpartisan guy. I don't have a political affiliation. That's a handicap in this race because I don't have a whatever your political party is. I don't have the benefit of outrage and hatred against the other side. All I have to lean on is my love of Chattanooga and making Chattanooga the best city that it possibly can be. And I'm an entrepreneur at heart. And entrepreneurs hate wasted potential. And I know you wouldn't be here either if you didn't understand that Chattanooga has incredible potential. But I make it my life's work to see Chattanooga live up to that potential. And that's the only reason I'm doing this.
Okay, thank you, Tim, and I want to wish you the best of luck in your campaign, and
Martina.
everyone vote on March 2nd.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Thank you.